What if the man with no deceit still wrestled with doubt? There's a story about a quiet fisherman whose first words to a friend were basically, "Nazareth? Seriously?" And yet minutes later, he's the one declaring, "You are the Son of God." That turn from hard-eyed skepticism to fearless conviction made him one of history's most unsettling figures, Saint Bartholomew. Some swear he traveled to the edges of the known world. Some say he died in a way so extreme artists still wince when they paint it. And buried in the details is a thread everyone misses. A man seen by Jesus who learned to see the world differently. Let's trace the rumors, the records, and the whispers that refuse to die. Bartholomew isn't a first name. It literally means son of Ptolemy. In the apostle lists, he stands near Philip, but in John's Gospel, the vivid call scene belongs to Nathanael, the man Jesus calls an Israelite without deceit. Early readers put the pieces together. Bartholomew is the family label. Nathanael is the personal name. That pairing explains why Nathanael's story appears in John, while Bartholomew turns up elsewhere without a scene. Not everyone agrees. The texts never say it in one line. You have to read sideways. And maybe that's the point. He steps out of anonymity not with a pedigree, but with an encounter. He is seen fully, and that kind of seeing changes people. It also makes them dangerous. Direct people disturb comfortable rooms. From here, his calm intensity becomes the signature. Either you trust him or you back away. Next, the moment under a fig tree that turned a skeptic into a witness. Before you spoke, I saw you. Picture a man under a fig tree, alone, thinking. Philip bursts in with news. "We found him." Nathanael fires back. "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Then he meets Jesus. No lightning, no special effects, just a gaze that feels like sunrise. Here is a true Israelite. No deceit. The remark lands. He realizes he's known, really known, and the defenses collapse. He answers with titles kings would fear. Son of God, King of Israel. Would you pivot that fast? He does. Not because he saw a trick, but because he felt recognized. Faith doesn't begin with a map. It begins when someone tells you the truth about yourself without humiliation. From that day, the man called Bartholomew carried a calm intensity, a spine of iron, and a manner so direct you either trust him or you step back. Next, where did he go after that? The maps get messy, and the intrigue begins. India? Or was it somewhere else? Early writers say that when the teacher Pantinus reached a land called India, he found a Hebrew copy of Matthew, said to be left by Bartholomew. But ancient maps were slippery. India could mean the subcontinent or parts of Arabia or even Ethiopia. The point isn't the label, it's the distance. Traditions scatter his steps across Mesopotamia, Parthia, Lycaonia, Armenia. He walked past the easy applause of capitals and headed for edges, places where languages tangled and new ideas could take root before the empire noticed. Do we have ticket stubs? No, we have memories, local stories, and the same description over and over. A stranger with a piercing calm who left communities, not monuments. That's why the trail feels like a constellation. Scattered points that still draw one figure. Next, the palace rumor that turns the constellation into a storm. The most retold tale places Bartholomew in a land ringed by mountains, where a ruler, Polemius in some versions, becomes unexpectedly receptive. The rumor goes like this: the apostle prays, a family is healed, a door opens, the king listens. Palaces are echo chambers, but suffering cuts through walls. The royal household converts. And then the backlash. Power hates to be out of breath. The king's brother Astyages say the stories fumes at the upheaval. The priests rage. Suddenly the court feels like a drum with a heartbeat too fast to ignore. Is every name and date firm? No. Even ancient church writers admit the details are uncertain. Some versions shift the names. Others move the city to Albanopolis. But every telling agrees on the shockwave. The gospel from a dusty corner of Galilee challenged respectable order, and respectable order reached for the oldest tool it knows, violence. But how did Bartholomew die? Accounts diverge, yet one image has haunted art for centuries. When you strip a man, you see what he stood for. Tradition says Bartholomew was taken by forces he wouldn't flatter or fear. No bargaining, no performance, just a final refusal to lie. The stories narrow to one stark image: a knife and a body flayed, then beheaded. Ancient writers don't dwell on gore. They compress it into a sign. Remove the outer layer, what remains? Fidelity. Other versions say he was crucified head down. Some move the city. Scholars debate the details, but not the shape. He would not recant. You can argue about maps. You can't argue with a last breath that matches a first love. Maybe that's why artists still wince when they paint him. They're not chasing shock. They're admitting that truth costs skin. Next, the River Island Shrine, where his name became a place of healing. Stories say his relics took a long, salt-stained route, Lipari to Benevento to Rome. On Tiber Island, a church rose over the ruins of a healing temple. That's the kind of irony history loves. A place once known for curing bodies becomes a shrine to a man whose body was ruined for love. Beneath the altar, ancient stone whispers the same question his life asks. What's worth everything? Pilgrims still cross the bridge to that church, San Bartolomeo alla Sola. They light candles for people who suffer in silence, for patience, for those who carry scars you can't see. Whether you're a believer or not, the symbolism lands. Fragility is not failure. It's the place where truth becomes visible. Symbols travel. Sometimes they pick up jobs along the way. Wait till you hear what he's patron of. He's the patron of tanners, leather workers, butchers, bookbinders, anyone whose craft meets skin and blade. The shock humor with a serious center. The man who lost his skin becomes the saint of those who transform it into something useful. There's a quiet redemption here. Even a symbol of violence can be turned toward care, craft, and provision. Look closer, and you'll notice how artists never tire of him. In Milan's cathedral, a Renaissance sculptor carved Bartholomew with muscles exposed, skin slung over the shoulders like a mantle. It's clinical and courageous, almost a lecture on anatomy that doubles as a homily on courage. You don't hang images like that to traumatize. You hang them to ask, what do I hide behind? And what would it cost me to tell the truth at full volume? Legends don't live on art alone. They live on dates you can circle and voices that still speak. Next, the date that keeps returning and why it still matters. The West keeps his feast on August 24th. Eastern calendars mark other days. The variety mirrors his story, one person with many maps, one life leaving ripples in different harbors. Some communities read the Nathanael passage and hear Jesus saying to them, I see you. Others retell the Pantinus episode and imagine a worn-out teacher holding a battered Hebrew manuscript in a place people called India. Not every detail is provable. Some are tradition, others debated, and a few are probably misheard across centuries. But the core doesn't move. A skeptic became a witness, traveled further than was comfortable, and refused to betray what he knew of Christ. That kind of fidelity is the rarest currency left. Before we close, the rumor everyone argues about, and why it matters to you even if you don't care about frescoes. Stand in the Sistine Chapel and find Bartholomew. In his left hand hangs a human skin. Many art historians say the face on that skin is Michelangelo himself, a painter admitting that telling the truth about God and man peels you to the core. A few push back, pointing to alternative theories. The debate doesn't ruin the power, it heightens it. Because either way the symbol stands, if you want the truth to matter, you have to risk being known completely. Bartholomew's legacy isn't a museum piece. It's a dare. Let yourself be seen. Drop the scripts. Speak plainly. And when it costs you time, status, invitations, Remember the fisherman who refused to be anything but honest. So what's left after the legends, the shrines, and the art? Something surprisingly practical. Strip away the mysteries, the contested maps, and the conflicting endings, and you're left with a simple, urgent path. Bartholomew's first transformation wasn't a miracle in public. It was a moment under a fig tree, being looked at without contempt. From there, he lived an undivided life. Direct, faithful, impossible to bribe. Whether he crossed deserts or city squares, he kept walking in daylight. If you remember one thing, remember this: integrity is gravity. It pulls people out of their hiding places. It converts palaces and workrooms, skeptics and kings. That's why his story won't sit still. Still wants you seen honest, unafraid. Like, share, and subscribe for more saint stories.